Hello and welcome. This is Cheryl. Thank you so much for joining me today. In this video, I'm sharing the new Spellbinders Cardstock Colors and Swatch dies. So there's several different dies here that you can create swatches for your cardstocks, and I love the fact that they're a unique shape and so much more interesting than just a plain old rectangle. Then we also have the Color Swatch wheel die set, and I'm going to be using that one to kind of save my favorite color combinations when I use them. And then finally, there's some Color Swatch stamps. So they are stamps with all the colored names of the new 48 colors of cardstock, and they have a curve to them. So they work perfectly on the Color Swatch Petal as well as the Color Swatch wheel die cuts. So this is just a fanning of a little bit of each one of those cardstock colors. I have a small piece of each one, perfect for creating my swatches here. Some of the colors are repeated from the ones that we've already had, like Peridot, you can see right at the front there. Fern is another one that's repeated. Waterfall, Poppy is now called Poppy Field in this color line. I love that there are a ton of new ones, and I always felt that there were some gaps in some of the areas. I always wished there was a color between Peridot and Fern for the greens, and this Colorwheel Cardstock fills that gap. There's also some nice like pinky purples, as you can see on here. So they're going to be a lot of fun to create with and play with. And because there are so many new colors, they're a great way to create some new color combinations. So they come in 8.5 by 11.5 or by 11, and they also come in 12 by 12, and you can buy individual packs of each color, or you can buy packs of different color combinations. Like there's a warm cardstock pack. There is a cardstock pack that has one of each of the different colors in it. So here I have my wheel done. I did all my die cutting off screen. It's very easy, same as regular die cutting. Now that Color Swatch Petal die set offers a couple different options. This is basically the background die, but then you can also put the color on top of that, and I'll show that later on in the video. Right now I'm going to use the stamp set, and I'm going to stamp some of the colors on the curved edge of the cardstock, and this is how I plan on doing it. Now anytime I have a new stamp set, I take that stamp set and I rub a white eraser over the stamping surface. This removes any possible manufacturing residue, and it helps the stamp take the ink a little bit better. I do this every single time I have a clear stamp. Sometimes rubber stamps need it as well, because sometimes they don't want to take ink quite as well, but clear ones definitely tend to need it. Once I've done that with my eraser, I just take a soft brush and I remove any eraser bits that might be stuck in the middle of there. I'm going to use my Misti for for stamping my petals, and I created a template with just some white cardstock. This way I can just put in the petal, and I can make it really easy to stamp the different areas. I don't have to worry about, because the petal's a weird shape, I don't have to worry about it possibly moving on me. By having it in the template, I can make sure that it stays in the same place. Now, the only problem that I had with my template, and it's not really a problem with the template, it was more a problem with the die cuts, is my die cuts curved when I pulled them out of the die set. So I kept forgetting to kind of curve them the other way to just flatten them a little bit. So they tended to stick up from my waffle flower grip mat that I have in my Misti there. So you'll see as I put them in there, I keep pressing that bottom curve down to hold it down. It doesn't want to stay. And I thought the issue was the fact that my grip mat needed to be washed. I washed it and it didn't make any difference. So easier way to do it is to take the time to flatten the cardstock out. Now, I said before that there's a couple different ways that you can use this. I just use the background with the whole piece of cardstock, mainly because there's 48 colors in there, and I knew that if I did it the other way, it was first of all going to be a lot more labor intensive, because there was going to be more cutting, there was going to be more gluing. It would look really, really nice, but it meant too that color swatch on my ring would be twice as thick. And I didn't want it to be that thick. I wanted it to be as thin as possible. So I opted just to use the large background die and do it this way. So you can pick and choose which way you want to do it. And I love the fact that there's several different options that you can do for that. For my light colors of cardstock, I'm just stamping them with some black Memento ink. You could use whatever black ink that you want. For my darkest colors, I'm using some Lisa Horton slow drying white ink, and I will be stamping that white ink a couple times just to build that up. One layer doesn't tend to do it enough, and here's a dark color that I'm using with that white ink. Now, I didn't stamp all of my color petals, mainly because there was a few colors I was a little bit iffy as to which color they were, so I was going to wait until I received my new cardstock colors after I order them, obviously, before stamping them and labeling them. So you can see here just one layer of that ink just didn't quite cover it enough. I think I did it 3 times just to make sure that I had a nice solid stamping there. Another option here would be to stamp it with an embossing ink and then emboss that name on there. However, obviously that would take a lot more time than just stamping it. And just the stamping it a couple times worked perfectly. So here's the other way that you can use that die set. So there's 3 different dies in that set. You could create a background that is just white. There is the reinforcer for the hole there. I did it in black just because I thought it would look nice against the color. And then you can use the 3rd die to color the cardstock color that you're using. Now I'm doing this new Spellbinders Cardstock Colors here. Obviously this will work with any cardstock lines. And then obviously you wouldn't necessarily have a stamp to stamp the name on the edge, but you could easily write it there, or you could even write it on the back if you prefer that. When it comes to the Color Swatch wheel die, my plan is to use it to save some favorite cardstock combinations that I come up with. So I'm here I'm using some colors from the older line. So I have Dahlia, I have pink sand, then I have waterfall, teal topaz, and lagoon, and it is one of my favorite combinations. This particular one or particular die set creates that background, and then you can die cut the little petal pieces as well as the reinforcer. There's a separate die to do an individual petal piece, or if you're wanting to do a whole bunch at once, there is also a die that has multiples, so you can cut multiples at once. Now, another option for this would be to use it as a interesting piece on a card, and I'm not doing that for this video. I do plan on playing around with it and doing that for a future video, because I think you could have a lot of fun with it. It's a really unique shape, something that's not quite expected, and I think you could have a lot of fun with it there. But I don't have what I want to do with it at my house quite yet, so I will hold off until I have what I want to create with it in my hands, and then I'll play with it. So you can see here that this swatch wheel has 6 spots on the back of it, but I only used 5. I'm letting that glue dry before I trim it down, but that's what I plan to do, is I'll just trim it down against the lines of the cardstock to make sure that I don't have that white space on the end. You could leave it there if you wanted to maybe write yourself some notes, but I don't plan to do that. For the one that I just glued together, I'm just going to put the label on the end, and you can see that the label, because that stamp is nice and curved, it works perfectly on the edge of the petal. You can do it on the outer edge, or you could even do it on the inner edge right on the color. Because that outer edge is white, I'm just doing it there. Now you could also use those stamps for the new colors on the edge of the swatch wheel die set. I didn't do this because some of the colors that are in the new line are not from the older colors, so I didn't bother to stamp just the ones that I had. I thought it would look weird to have that incomplete. Again, another option would be to just write them along the side so that you remember what the colors are if you're afraid that you're going to forget. Now, obviously, if you're doing multiples of the petals in the same color, you can just line up that stamp for one of the petals and then just insert that next petal and then stamp it away. Now, I decided that I was going to flatten my cardstock there, and you can see exactly what happened. I had a little bit of black ink on my fingers. I'll recut that at some point. I'm not too worried about it. It's not pristine, so in one respect, it kind of bothers me, but I also don't want to necessarily waste cardstock just recoloring it just for that. So this swatch wheel piece is already dry, so I'm just going to use my scissors, and I'm just trimming around the edge of that reinforcer and then the edge of that petal. So again, so I don't have that white piece there, and you can see how well that works. This is perfect for saving those again, favorite cardstock combinations. So this is the new Spellbinders Cardstock Colors. They're called Cardstock Color Wheel. There's 48 gorgeous colors, and I can't wait to play with them and start adding them to my color combinations. I've been wanting some new colors to play with, so this came at the absolute perfect time. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed checking out some of the new colors, and I can't wait to play with them. Thank you so much for all the time that you spend with me. I hope you have a fantastic day.